directly talking outside of maybe Twitter, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever even, to be honest, I don't think we've even ever interacted even on social media, to be honest with you. I've worked with people that you've worked before, and people have referenced you, and obviously, you're a legend in the coaching scene. So, I mean, obviously, I've known of you, but yeah, it's really good to just finally meet formally.
Yeah, I mean, I've known of your existence for a while. Like, I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier. I know that you're like one of the longer term standing public coaches in the space. I wasn't sure how active you still are. Like, I mean, I saw the podcast and whatnot, but I don't really keep up with a lot of non-esports space. No, I'm not saying that you're not esports space. I just mean like you're not actively on Twitter every day posting stuff,
I'm
engaging.
not in esports.
Right, exactly, right. So like, that's sort of what I mean. And then I don't really keep up with websites. I don't know if you have a website, but I don't really keep up with websites because obviously the whole stuff with like skill capped and Metafy and that's a whole other can of worms. Yeah. So okay. So obviously we could just jump right into like what you discussed on the podcast, but I would rather give you the, I guess, opening on whatever you want to talk about that you were talking about.
I mean, there's actually two topics that I really want to talk about, but I think there's a lot of tangents that I want to go on with you. I'd love to pick your brain and have a chat about. There's two big ones.
Sure.
Number one, the first one is 10 CS per minute as a concept and the idea and the premise of 10 CS per minute, and the second one is actually Annie.
What the fuck?
I want to talk about Annie.
Yeah, I heard the Annie thing too. I heard the Annie thing. Yeah, sure.
I've got a lot of points about Annie. So I guess where the big one to start would be 10 CS per minute. So look, I'm gonna start by riffing, and then wherever I'm wrong, wherever you think you feel like I've framed you poorly or inaccurately, just let me know. Because I don't want to misinterpret what you said, right? But the gist of it, from what I can understand and what I've seen, both from your shorts, I think you have a YouTube short that popped up on my YouTube feed about giving advice about aiming for 10 CS per minute, and there was a response, I believe, to Ludwig in response to him. I believe to Ludwig in response.
Stesteți un pic cum mă aud. Stesteți un pic cum mă aud. Miau, miau, hau, bau, bau, bau. Stesteți un pic cum mă aud. Miau, miau, hau, bau, bau, bau. Okay.
Struggling in solo queue, talking about 10 CS. Now,
I have the 10 CS tweet on screen.
Right.
I don't. Yeah.
I'm not looking at your stream right now.
Sure. No, it's just the Ludwig tweet.
Right.
Because I thought that's what you were referencing in the podcast. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so there was that, and then there was I think you have a short somewhere about responding to, I think maybe it was like a Patreon question or something.
Sure.
About 10 CS per minute, and so I want to make it very clear. Start with the premise. So I'm not a jungle coach, so I'm primarily a mid lane coach. So I want to make that very clear. But in the case of Ludwig, right, I'm assuming that your big shtick in this regard is the insignificance and importance of efficiency, being, golden resources and efficiency, because ultimately if you have a lot of gold and you can buy a lot of items and you're very strong, that is a very good general framework for improving in the lower elo brackets. Am I getting that right?
So, all right, kind of, but obviously, like, the context of this tweet, and also, I think, who I'm replying to, I think this all matters. But I would agree with you, efficiency, especially at lower MMR, I have the belief that it should be treated as a single-player game, and that most practice and routine and approach to your own gameplay, refinement, etc., should all be treated as a single-player game.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with the Ludwig context. What context do you think I need to know in context to that advice that you gave to Ludwig?
So when I'm tweeting at Ludwig, this is a person who just started League recently, to my understanding, to my knowledge, right? He had like an instance where he played in some casual event, but this is his actual first rodeo with League. So there's that. He's already gone from iron to bronze in a relatively short period of time. And also, this is Ludwig. And what I mean by that is, as someone that has interacted with multiple different elite personalities in their respective fields, and I'm not talking about mainstream fields like doctors, lawyers, etc., rather esports personalities, etc., Ludwig is above what we would call like pro gamer level in one of the most difficult fields in the world, which is content creation and streaming. And I think that he's displayed publicly that a lot of it is through his own volition and his own approach to things. It's not necessarily a team or an agency that is doing that. So when I'm writing the comment to Ludwig, one, I'm on Twitter, so it's obviously not going to be as fleshed out as a video or a one-on-one session with him, etc. I don't even know if he's going to see it or interact with it, right? Because the amount of stuff that he just gets every single day, his views, his impressions on everything, etc. And also him and I don't even know if he actually knows who I am. So even if he sees my name in the list, he might not actually pause and read it. Now, obviously, the tweet gets traction, so he did respond to it. But what I'm getting at is Ludwig is, if we talk about cross-domain expertise or cross-domain dominance, he would be able to apply that because this is very similar fields. Because, again, his goal is to get to platinum. That's his bet challenge. So my whole thing would not be anything that has to do with Diamond Master, Grandmaster, Challenger, Pro, etc. And he's essentially just trying to hit a certain rank. What is the best way that he can obviously do that? And as someone that I believe is highly competent, and again, cross-domain expertise, he also displays every single day, especially in this field of work, extreme deep knowledge of analogical reasoning. So with analogical reasoning, if I say what I said to Ludwig in the tweet, he would be able to work it backwards on what is required to chase after that. Obviously, you can't get 10 CS per minute every single game. That I don't think is implied through the tweet. But he would realize that this is generally a metric that Smurfs would probably be able to hit, even if he doesn't call them Smurfs, just higher level players. And it's also a metric that can only actually be obtained if you're properly doing patience kiting, properly rooting, properly understanding jungle respawn timers, properly understanding recall timers, reset timers, etc. And the intent isn't that he actually hits 10 CS per minute. The intent is that all of those things that build into what is necessary to hit 10 CS per minute must be worked on in order to obtain it in the first place. And then obviously the tweet emphasizes treat it as a single player game. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot to touch on there. I mean,
Sure.
I'm just going to speak from my experiences as a coach.
Sure.
I've worked with a lot of elite individuals. So to be clear, I've coached literally thousands of people.
Sure.
I've done probably over the past 4 years, roughly about 8,000 reviews.
Sure.
Across all servers, all elo brackets. And I've worked with elite individuals, both banking executives, lawyers, principals, doctors. And I've actually seen little to no correlation in terms of success in other endeavors and then in League of Legends, in my experience. I've had people that are elite individuals in many other fields and if it wasn't for their experience all the time coaching, they would be predominantly stuck in a significantly low elo bracket, whether it be silver or bronze, for a long time, potentially even years. So in my experience, just being from who I worked with, I actually don't think that you can even really make that claim. Now, if that person were to have success in other specific esports titles, let's say they were an ex-StarCraft player, they were an ex Dota player, Counter-Strike player, whatever, I could see that, because I think that then you would have, fine motor skills, you would have the ability to understand, like I think the aspect of literally being a good quality gamer flows on massively to other games. I mean, you've probably seen that with you working with other pro level players upon other games. Like I saw one of your videos with, is it Raynad, the StarCraft player?
Raynor.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I was gobsmacked by how good he was. Mechanically.
Yep.
I was just like, wow, that's just incredible. And so I think there is an element of that. So I would say I fundamentally disagree with that first aspect.
Well, no, I think you misunderstood me. I said that I wasn't referencing lawyers, doctors, etc. I was referencing people specifically in the space of esports and jobs that...
So does he work in esports?
Well, Ludwig's background is as a Smash player, and Yeah, so his background is as a Smash player originally, and he came up as a Smash player / commentator, and then obviously popped off on Twitch. But I also do think that people that work in content creation is different than someone who would work in a traditional, like, white-collar type job. And I say that because of how often the industry and the algorithms and the processes and, you know, the environment rapidly changes, right? You have to be extremely adaptable to so many different things, and the amount that he takes on is essentially his CEO and everything else. I don't think it's necessarily akin. So I think it's a combination of that, plus he does have a background in games.
Right. Okay, I didn't know he was a pro gamer. I'm not overly aware of who Ludwig is. Okay, that I can. Yeah, so I agree with half of that. Maybe I don't agree with the other half. I think that's
sure.
Whatever. Okay, so then the other part. So, I'm 100% on board with you with what you said on the second half of your thing, which was what matters if someone were to actually want to climb to platinum would be to break down the underlying skills that make up being efficient, right? Just use the like jungle sequencing, what makes a good game and a bad game, you know, a level of champion mastery, understanding your champ's identity and playing towards that, you know, knowing the camp respawn timers as a jungler, etc., etc. But in my opinion, 10 CS per minute as a curve could literally be completely removed from that equation. Because realistically, a jungler is not even going to get 10 CS a minute. You don't even need to get 10 CS a minute to get to platinum. My take on it is that it's actually an overcomplication of the game. And telling someone to be more... If you had to give advice in a tweet to someone, I think there is better quality pieces of advice that would actually set that person on track. Now, I agree with you that the medium of Twitter is completely useless. I mean, what are you really going to say within a paragraph to someone on Twitter that they're probably not even going to say that's going to actually meaningfully change their league journey? Probably nothing. But, you know, in general, the concept of 10 CS per minute, even though I think I get where you're coming from in terms of the underlying skills, that's not how it's actually taken on board from a lot of people that see that. And I'm going to, again, speak from my experience with clients. I've had people that have been given that advice. Maybe they've copied, maybe it's coaches out there in the industry that have copied your advice and said, I've heard LS talk about the significance of 10 CS per minute, and they go ahead and say that to lower elo clients, or even any client for that matter. And the clients literally go backwards because they come in with the mindset of, oh, I got to get every CS, I got to focus on my farm, and they, well, I see it more as a laner, they will tunnel vision on farm, completely neglect trading. They don't even understand the underlying mechanics to get 10 CS a minute, so they're essentially gaslighting themselves. And so you kind of get this very vicious cycle of holding themselves to a high standard that is essentially unachievable for the average player in the first place. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. So my stance on that would be that there's going to be people that can receive the information and interpret it and then utilize it, and there's going to be people that can receive the information and not utilize it, right? We see this actually in personal training and fitness, where a gym person or a physiology professor or nutritionist, etc., can say very layman's terms explanations that might not have all of the meat and substance of what is actually going on leading to a certain process or exercise or workout. And some people are able to see that, acknowledge who is saying it, and then maybe dig a little bit deeper into it, and thus those people find success. And then there's a lot of people that just see it and they don't find success because they need other types of tutelage or explanation given to them. But I think that that's ultimately arguing about language and the message that is being conveyed, not actually with the substance of what is necessarily being said. Because the statement itself does contain all of those things, it's just not laid out as such. It's a very layman's way of explaining it. But there's also nowhere in my tweet that says that you must always get 10 CS per minute. And I understand that that's how maybe it can be interpreted by some people, but I would suggest that's a different problem if people interpret it that way or they don't read deeper into it. Also, I'm a person that doesn't like incremental approach to things. Not that. Let me clarify what I mean by that. What I mean by incremental approach is sort of like when you were saying that they work backwards, or they get stun locked on certain types of things, or they get stuck on doing X, Y, and Z. I would think that if that's happening, there's other things at play that cause them to get stun locked or X, Y, and Z. And again, it goes back to they need a different type of education or toolage or other things, which is why they end up in coaching. But it doesn't inherently have to do with the initial statement that's being made. So in that regard, I think it gets a little bit nuanced, where we are still going to be talking about people that need coaching, require coaching, or they need the same exact message delivered to them differently.
Right. Okay, yeah, I see where you're coming from. I mean, I think we're getting into the minutia now, but like, I think that
Sure.
I hear you. No, I hear you. I whether, again, and I think whether or not, look, I'll say my last 2 cents on that is,
Sure.
I hear you, and I get where you're coming from. I just still kind of think that with just again from what I've seen, the way people interpret that, I get it. Maybe there are some individuals that would read between the lines and be like, all right, LS doesn't actually mean that I should get 10 CS a minute, or that's not actually what I should be getting. There will be some people like that, but there will be a lot of people that will take what you say very seriously and live by that. And I think as a role model in the community, like yourself, a lot of people look up to you and really listen to what you say, even blindly, without the actual context and the details around it, and can get themselves a little bit stuck. So I hear you. But yeah, no,
as a personal side bit, something that I talked about on stream yesterday, and I actually said that I would mention it in regards to this, right? Like, obviously, I just did a like personal health, fitness journey type transformation over the last 3 months. I went from 20% body fat to 10%, and I did all of that. Thank you. And I did all of that watching Renaissance Periodization on YouTube, binge watching a lot of videos, etc., and all this other type of stuff. That guy is absolutely amazing. And in that, there was this one point where he talks about, X amount of pull-ups, or being able to do X amount of X, as getting here is really good. This is elite and stuff. And when I first start out, obviously I can't do that many pull-ups. And again, he's using different types of content. He has his videos, he has his shorts, he has his reels, and whatever. But I do think that part of the thing is on the consumer, where I recognize who this is, and I hear what he's saying in a short, and it's well, how do I get up to 15? Or how do I get up to, X on any exercise? Or what do I have to do to marginally increase load? Because yes, that is necessarily maybe the end goal, but what are the processes that get there? And I do that obviously on my own. Now, that's a personal experience or anecdotal, reference. But I think that a lot of people are like that. That can just take short form content, which is what it is. It's short form, right? Not longer form. And then they can reverse engineer it, or they can look at who's saying it and then search out or seek out other ways to hit that mentioned end goal in some capacity, right? And in doing so, you develop a lot of other skills almost along the way because of what is necessary to get to that point.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to just play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
So you can, because I've also watched his content. I've learned a lot from him as well. But I'm going to flip the switch here. Let's say you saw a short from Renee's Periodization, and it said, if you're new to the gym, you're struggling in the gym, you're new to the gym, you should be aiming for 20 strict body weight pull-ups. That's what you should be aiming for. Mm-hmm. That's what if you want to get that physique, you should be doing 20 body weight pull-ups every time you do back day. And so you hear that and you're like, oh, okay, does he literally mean that I should go to the gym and I should get that, and if I don't get that, I'm just a piece of shit? Or should I, am I trying to read between the lines? Is that what does he actually mean? Now, a point that I'm trying to make is that the equivalent of what you're saying with the 10 CS per minute is you're setting some unrealistic expectation that no one is ever going to hit. And is not even getting remotely getting it close to it. And it doesn't literally even matter on their journey to Prime or Diamond for that matter. Yeah, and then saying, oh, but you misunderstood what I meant. I didn't actually mean you should get 10 CS per minute. I just meant that you should be clearing faster and blah 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 blah. So you can see what I mean. You're leaving a lot up to interpretation from the viewer. So what you're better off doing is not saying that at all, and just completely removing that standard and get across the point in a way that is less ambiguous. That's my contention.
So, okay. So the reason that I don't think that, or I prefer to write the unrealistic number, right? 10 CS per minute. The reason that I think writing it is good is because it sets a goal. And what I mean by that is like, there's a saying that if you want to hit the sky, you aim for the stars. Because obviously, even if you don't hit the stars, you end up way past the sky. Whereas if you hit the sky, as you get closer to the sky, and humans are like this, just psychologically with any goal, the closer that they, oh my lord, sorry, the closer that they get to any goal, the more difficult the ending almost becomes in a lot of ways. And so if the goal is further out, then they will go further along the path than they would have otherwise gone had the goal not been as far out. The 10 CS per minute thing with this is a pretty good marker, I think, because yes, it is a pretty unrealistic number, but also the way the tweet is worded is it says focus on 10 CS per minute, which means like exactly that, focus, not get it every single time, but focus would imply like what are the things that you have to do to be able to get this number, and then how do you go about that? If I were to just tell someone on Twitter, work on your patience kiting, work on your clears, work on this, work on that, they could in theory do all of that. The same way that someone might count calories, or the same way that someone might go to the gym. But are they actually working on, progressive overload? Are they working on, 2 reps from failure? Are they working on like these types of things, with another equal layman's term explanation, rather than like, can you eventually get to this point? I think the problem with, do the patience kiting, do this clearing, do this. What'll end up happening is, I did experience this in coaching myself back when I was doing public coaching. People would then say that they worked on all those things, but it actually wasn't that efficient. And I think that the 10 CS per minute demands that it must be efficient. So if you're nowhere near 10 CS per minute, well, then you're actually not doing it that efficient. And their OPGG or Deep LoL or whatever website you want to use, the graph can be tracked that like, hey, you were initially at 4 CS per minute. You're trying to get to 10, but you're at 6.7. So you've improved in some degree. Now, there might be other stuff going on with them, sure, but those are different questions. But there's still like some sort of like tracking going on. Whereas maybe if I just tell them to work on those things, they think that they're working on it and they only go from 4 to 4.5. Because they're not working on it as diligently as they would to try to hit that unattainable number. Maybe
there is a client out there that happens with.
Sure.
Again, like I think where we don't see eye to eye here is that. Okay, so let me again play devil's advocate with the whole idea that if you set this goal of 10 CS per minute and reach for the stars and things, sure, you're assuming that the person wouldn't get overwhelmed in the process of doing so. League of Legends, as you know, is a very, very hard game. Yeah. Very, very hard. And, like, incredibly hard. And so hard, in fact, that most people don't even... most high-level players don't actually even respect the difficulty of the game and don't even realize how hard the game is. Now, if we're talking strictly about the lower elo community, again, in this context, we're talking about bronzes. Let's say bronzes and silvers.
Sure.
They really struggle. They really, really, really struggle. The average person at bronze and silver is really struggling, and they're completely lost. Mm-hmm. And they need very practical advice. They need literal. They don't even know where to start oftentimes. And so, in my experience, again, if I say something that is kind of general, like I want you to come in and I want you to just not die.
Right.
I just want you to just not die. Now, yeah, there are people out there that would resonate with that, and there are people out there that would be like, okay, I get what you mean. I'm not going to die. I'm going to value my life, and that's going to, if I stay alive, it's going to give me more success in solo queue. But a better piece of advice would be, I think, again, for Ludwig, would be, you know what? Make sure you're on your Raptors on spawn when they respawn, or for Elena, make sure that you are constantly trying to time your trades with fast hits, or make sure that you are conscious about when you're resetting, or make sure that you're constantly warding and leaning, or something like that. Now, if they said, I've already done that and I'm still not getting results, then that just means that there's another thing in the chain that needs to be worked on, because as you said, when it comes to 10 cents a minute or being incredibly efficient, there are a multitude of things that you need to do. So it's just another one of those things. So let's say, again, going back to the pull-ups example, if you wanted to get 20 strict pull-ups, well, rather than just saying get 20 strict pull-ups, where do I even start? What do I do? Should I start with in the assisted pull-up machine? If you try and get 10 assisted pull-ups with blah 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 blah, and then start there. That is a much more pragmatic and practical thing that I think would help people. But look, I hear you. I don't really think that.
No, I know. We're sort of in an impasse. Right. One thing that just popped into my mind while you were speaking is I think that my 10 CS per minute thing is more akin to telling someone to run a 5-minute mile.
Right.
And what I mean by that is 5-minute mile is not like Olympian, I don't think, right? Off the top of my head. I don't think that's like Olympian speed. I could maybe Google.
Yeah, I'm not a runner. I have no clue.
Yeah, I don't know. What is Olympian speed mile run? Let me see. Okay, they can get under 4 minutes. Okay, so let's use like 5.5, 6 minutes, right? It's not Olympian, but it's definitely like doable by like really in shape high school students. If I were to tell someone to aim for 5.5 mile, and they're really far away from that, the number that they get on their clock, that they keep seeing it go down, and everything that has to be worked on outside of that to lose weight, you know, increase their endurance, do all these other types of things, the number gives them something that keeps them in check endlessly.
Hey guys.
Yeah, I get that, because in this example, the metric is very clear, right? Oh, I got to get 6 minutes, and I got to get the mile under whatever 6 minutes.
Yeah.
In League, the CS metric has little to nothing to do with the actual pragmatic gameplay. That's my point is that whether a jungler in a game, right, gets 5 CS per minute or 6 CS per minute has no bearing, zero actually, I would contend, basically 1% on how well they jungle in that game. So in the running example, that we can't really compare, because in running it's like it's intuitive. We all know what you've got to do to, you know, for the most part. Just go out there and run, you know, and train and lose weight and eat healthy, right, and sleep well, and stretch. In League, it's not that clear. It's not. They don't even know. Okay, I've got to get 10 CS minute. How do I even get there? What steps do I even take?
Okay, sure. So that would then circle back to my belief that you treat it as a single player game, because I agree with you that yes, 10 CS per minute doesn't necessarily tell you that you are jungling correctly, right? If we have a challenger level game or a professional level game, it could be the absolute most correct thing. Depending on what happens in the game, because I'm going to have 4 camps at 3.5 minutes. That could just be like a real thing.
Acabando sta seta pra andar igual.
Right.
Tadinho.
Sure. So in Ludwig's case, again, he's trying to hit platinum to win his bet. That's all that it is. And because I have the belief that League should be treated as a single-player game below certain MMR thresholds, etc., I think he's most likely to improve at a faster rate doing this, and then also hit his bet by doing it like this, by making the game single-player.
Yeah, I would just disagree.
Okay.
That's where I would disagree. I don't actually think saying League is a single player game in my mind has next to zero help, in my opinion as well.
Okay.
Because again, practically, if I load into a game and someone has told me League is a single player game, I'm just trying to empathize with Ludwig for a second.
Sure.
I would then maybe make the assumption that, okay, I guess he means that a lot of the events are going to be random. The people around me are NPCs, so I can't really predict what they're going to do. I need to just react to a series of random events, and I'm just going to sit here and continually clear my camps. Now, yes, I guess clearing camps is good, right? I guess you can make that assumption.
Yeah.
Nothing is really random in League of Legends. I mean, for example, right, you can pan your camera, you can look at a lane. League is a game of probability. You can look at that lane, so I'm playing a Mumu, and I look at this, pan my camera, given where the wave state is, given the HP values of these particular champions, this is either, and given my knowledge of the enemy jungler, this is either a high percentage gank or a low percentage gank.
Yep.
And so in the case of a jungler, if I was to, again, I'm not a jungle coach, but if I were to try and get someone to platinum, what I would, the advice I would give in the case of...
Apesar que eu faço fome, și am mâncat. Tô băgat mânci, în loc să vină la mine. Tu,
Pan your camera and assess the volatility of the look at the HP values.
Are
Are they low or are they high? Or even better, start off the game trying to have a rough awareness of where the enemy jungler started. Track the enemy jungler at a very baseline level. I mean, I could go on with very basic advice that would drastically increase the likelihood that that person would get to platinum. And this is my main contention with this advice is that I think it's completely useless. And I mean no, like I don't mean that personally.
Sure.
I think that it has absolutely no
Ce fac mamei? Ce caută Gina acolo? De ce s-a dus înapoi? Eu știu că l-am salvat pe Mundo, dar pe că s-o băgat la loc să moară.
So obviously so I agree with you on panning to a lane and looking at the probability chance that a gank would succeed. I would disagree that if your laner pings assistance, that you should listen to arbitrary silver, bronze, gold players, because everything's going to be arbitrary. Their assumption on what requires gank assistance or what is a gank is different than the individual player. So I can agree with you when you tell the jungler themselves to look at the lane and determine the probability. But I would never tell him to listen to his teammates' pings. He should do it on his own, which falls into my single player. So that falls into my single player belief.
Well then, okay. Well, yes, theoretically, it's single player in this. Okay. Well, what you're saying then is
you're wanting him to be accountable for all his own actions, but have nothing to do with his teammates' input.
Right. So you're assuming that no one knows what they're doing at all, and there's going to be absolutely zero interaction, and everything that they do is completely. Yeah. Okay. I get where you're coming from, but it literally didn't click for me until you just said that. I actually had no idea what you meant by the statement. It's a single player game right up until that point.
Okay.
So what you just said there makes total sense to me. Yeah, I agree. You should not, for all intents and purposes, a ping should literally just be a sign that something is happening there.
Right.
Not that you should listen to whatever they say.
Right.
And when I perceive it to be a multiplayer game, I don't mean listen to other people think or even communicate for that matter.
Okay.
What I mean is there are other people in the game making decisions, and you can assess that information and make a decision for yourself. So
right. Okay.
There are other people in the game, and that these events are happening around you, which you need to interact with them. Is that's the way I perceive it.
Yeah. Okay.
It is a multiplayer game.
Right. So sure, it's a multiplayer game. Right. So again, I guess the reason that I just use the language that I use though is because I want the person to be accountable for all of their own actions without, starting to ponder, did I do something wrong in this top matchup? Did this top laner?
Why not just say that?
Well, because the medium.
Say, take maximum responsibility for your decisions.
Sure. But again, I think it goes back to the medium of these are shorts and Twitter and whatever. This isn't longer form content. The same way that, like, if we use the fitness analogy, right? Like, Mike Israel, he has long form content where he goes into the nitty gritty of certain workouts and other stuff, and then he has a short form content, and they're just meant to convey different things.
Yeah, I get what you mean now.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of I don't think it's particularly clear as you think it is. That would be my what I think.
Well, also, the demographic that I'm trying to appeal to, and I've always held this stance, and I think that you even mentioned it in like your podcast. Generally, when I talk about the game, usually it is just pro play and esports, for the most part. But generally, the audience or the consumer that I care about the most is the person who will further seek out information. I don't care about the. I think I could be wrong on this number. I think that 98% of people who attempt fitness stuff, like actual fitness, like weight loss and other stuff, fail. I think that's the number. I think it's 98%. Only 2% are really successful with like fitness, weight loss journeys that actually keep it off and like other stuff. My content and most of what I say is about the 2%. And then caring about the people that will follow up on the information. I stopped caring about the 98%. Or not that I stopped caring about the 98%, it's just never been my prerogative.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I respect it. Yeah, man. I respect it.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I think that's completely reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think let's move on to the Annie discussion.
Sure.
So,
okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Could be wrong here. One of your piece of advice is you tend to recommend.
Coaie, era Tristana ăla troglodit. Tu-ți dai seama că am picat?
Yes.
Their journey to make it easier. Is that right?
Cum n-ai
it's not just because it's simpler. I think Annie has a really good fundamental baseline kit. She has high auto attack range, which requires spacing and then ability to utilize the auto attack range. She has a point and click ability, which is obviously good. She has resource management in both mana and her passive, which teaches like something going on there. She has Tibbers, which then you have to control Tibbers with R. So there's a little bit of added mechanic that you can get while playing Annie. She has her shield and timing it. I just think that her kit is like a perfect vanilla card, if I were to use like a TCG analogy, to play the game with. But then also I do think that her power...
Așa asta cu TCG analogy în prima, parcă toată lumea joacă ăla.
Level at low MMR, mid MMR, even pro play. I mean, Annie's still viable for pro play. It is just really strong. And I think that her gameplay and most stuff is really straightforward with her.
Radiul ăștia.
Cum zice de astăzi, dacă nu murea, trăia și împlinea 101 ani. Astăzi făcea, dar fusese internat, că era bolnăvior săracul, și în spital i-au zis ăstea, știți, sunteți în spital, poate vă șutiți. Regreta ceva din viața asta și a zis, dacă mintea mea înaintea doar până la 17 ani. Deci el era Caterin Cozda. Avere mititică, 10 milioane de lire sterline. Înțeleg că era compătat așa la cheltuieli, 10 milioane de lire sterline, a lăsat averea părinților lui care au decedat. Părinții decedând, averea s-a transferat la frații și surorile lui care au murit și ei. 6 nepoate sau 7 nepoate și alea, cum și de ele așa, le-a venit o pleașcă pe cap de 1,5 milion la fiecare.
Da, noi de ce n-avem și noi norocul ăsta?
Imens. Dar e adevărat că avea o fobie în a cheltui bani, că de fapt răzbunții punea deoparte.
Cred că e tot ăla cu Jin. Te banăm Tristana, poate.
Dar Hagi Tudose a zis când era pe pantaloni cu un negru și se rupea și dădea cu cremă de ghete pe picior.
Păcat că nu vede numele.
Sunteți consumeriști, să vă fie rușine pentru că de-aia a dispărut remaiatul, de-aia a dispărut geamgiul, din cauza voastră care vă duceți în loc să reparați, să coaseți și așa mai. Nu vă duceți și cumpărați unul nou.
Sigur înveți ceva nou și astăzi.
De la 7. Deschis dimineața.
Nu poți cumpăra dragul.
She's also a solo kill mid laner. Like, she can find solo kills pretty often, and I think that that's a good metric that low MMR players, when they're trying to get better, again, it's like one of those metrics, like, can I track it? Are you consistently winning in CS? Are you solo killing your opponent with a champion that can definitely solo kill in low MMR? So yeah, I think there's a lot going on with Annie. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would, completely disagree.
Okay. Okay. Go.
So I think Annie is probably up there with one of the worst mages you can play as a LoL player.
Okay.
Up there, not to say she can't, if a Smurf were to play her, and not to say that you can't learn everything, all those things you said with her. Annie is, in my opinion, actually a very complex champion. And in a way that a lot of people don't understand. Okay, so there's one aspect of a kit that is very important that I would consider, to be honest, to be the training wheels of mid lane. The training wheels of lane, specifically in mid. And that is wave clear. Nowadays, if you don't have wave clear inside your kit, you're essentially playing the game on hard mode. And Annie really severely lacks wave clear. And for high elo players, the way you establish lane control, I played a fair bit of Annie myself.
Sure.
And I've versed a lot of an Annie OTP in my server who's actually really quite good. Hoity Toity, he's like an Annie OTP knows for a long time. He's really quite good. The best Annie players, as you know, leverage her high attack range. They posture up aggressively, abuse that attack range. They will go Scorch. They will start E in a lot of range matchups. They will bait the enemy to trade onto them. Go get E, proc the Scorch. That was even when First Strike was great. You could proc First Strike, basically guaranteed. And you would essentially establish lane control utilizing everything around your E and your auto attacks. It's actually very little to do with your Q and your W. It's all basically your E and your auto attacks. Now that's a very unintuitive, complex aspect of League of Legends because it assumes, number one, you're competent mechanically, such that you can actually understand the ranges of champions and space and tether correctly, and understanding minion aggro. Two, it understands or assumes that you understand what ability you should be using your E for in a particular matchup. Then you also, on top of that, you're kind of baited to use your abilities on the wave to, I guess, aid yourself with wave clear, but your mana cost is so high. And so you're only then you're forced to hold your passive stun to generate threat to create space and then use your auto attacks to only
Asta e pișatul ăla de skin de costă mega mult pe Acri.
Dă-te în gâtul, mă. Use your Q to last it because then you're losing your passive stacks. You're not really ever using a W because it costs too much mana. So then what actually happens in the lower elo brackets, because the players can't, specifically in bronze and silver, they can't leverage the E is commonly misused and again not intuitive for the average player. Therefore, your kit completely loses lane control. Your kit doesn't have wave clear, and what often happens, and what I see, they get shoved in. They're getting poked under tower. They have to then use their abilities to last it. They miss last hits. They mess their W. They go They become overly reliant on using their R for lane control. And let's say the stars align. Let's say the jungler ganks, or maybe the enemy mistethers at 6. They press their tibbers. They get a solo kill. Quite often, even after that solo kill, the enemy comes back and TPs. Their tibbers is on cooldown, and they're like, oh, well, I guess I lose lane control right until my ultimate comes back up again. And so in practice, in actual reality, all of the major strengths of Annie's kit are basically unusable for the entirety of the lower elo community. And so you don't learn you don't actually feel or have the chance to feel out lane control. And so therefore, because you don't get lane control, you don't actually ever get the opportunity to have dominance over the lane, control the wave, and actually plan your resets. You can't really build the habits of warding and leaning. And you don't actually even have a great way to simplify your lanes because you're constantly getting shoved in and your mental sack is overwhelmed CSing under tower. So in practice, Annie is probably one of the worst champs you could play in bronze and silver and iron.
So I guess I would have a couple of gripes with this. So obviously I think that there's two parts of this maybe. Or actually, maybe there's a little bit more. I'm trying to think. Well, actually, first, let me start with what do you think is a good mage then for a lower MMR player?
Okay, we're going to get specific. If someone is level 30 and iron, I would argue that champions like Malzahar and Brand are very good because they simplify getting shoved. They get you to not have your mental stack is less overwhelmed because you don't have to really overthink getting shoved. Poking down the enemy. Poking down the enemy actually becomes significantly easier. Then I would transition if you're like maybe getting your iron, you're getting into bronze mages like Vigar. You know, could maybe be weaved in there a little bit. Still, Malzahar really great. And then if you're getting through, you know, kind of through bronze into silver, I would argue more traditional mages such as Victor would be much better for learning the fundamentals because you have wave clear, you have more obvious lane control, and the trading patterns are a lot more vanilla and clear cut and straightforward, and you're less hard playing.
Okay, so you said Bran,
Malzahar, Bran for absolute beginners. I think they're really, really simplified.
Okay.
Especially Malzahar.
Yeah.
Malzahar is
and then
incredibly. Asol in there as well. I think Asol's also really good.
Okay. At like super low MMR.
Yeah, I would say bronze Asol's great.
Okay. Okay. So working with this framework and like some of the stuff that you said about Annie, I can see Malzahar because he's just abusive and that he presses EW and the wave goes away for the most part. With Brand, you have to use his passive on the. You have to Q the minion, then you have to E it, then you have to W. And then also your W has to be able to hit all 6 minions for the most part.
You wouldn't really need to Q the wave, right?
Well, to get the depending on how the wave is positioned, right? To get the expanded conflagrate. Is that the name of the ability?
Well, yeah. So typically, a very easy way to execute Brand is actually E-max. And it actually simplifies your lane massive. You don't even have to. You can max it if you want to. You can do 3 points W max E, or you can just but E max specifically is really, really. It's like the training wheels. It's a really
Look, guys, we knew. Look.
Sure. Okay. So for one of the things that you said about Annie is that she has to use her abilities on the wave. But now Brand is having to use his abilities on the wave.
Yes, but Annie's abilities have no AoE. The W, you don't max W. Your W is too expensive. And whereas Malzahar and Brand have way more bang for buck value for using their abilities on the wave. And simultaneously, using your abilities on the wave is actually can sometimes
it can bring
exactly.
Sure. But I think Annie wants to be using Q on the wave though to accumulate stun stacks. In order to then.
It doesn't really age your wave that much, right?
Well, I mean,
because you're only usually last hitting with your Q.
Right. You're right. You're last hitting with your Q. So now we're talking about push speed. So we're talking about Brand, Malzahar, Annie push speed. Yes, those champions would obviously have greater push speed. So you can push the wave, but then necessarily what do you do with it next? I think that is obviously something that follows. The other thing that for me is a lot of these suggestions are turning off a huge part of the game. Like you were describing Annie, you were describing all these aspects that make you become a better player in order to get use out of her kit. You have to auto attack, you have to space, you have to know how to use her Q and her W. Because you can lather up the minions to eventually just get killed by a W. You know, that's possible. Learning how to juggle her passive. So for me, I would rather a person not cheat the game, because this goes back to something that we talked about in the previous segment about the incremental things. My whole thing, even when I was coaching years ago or current belief, is I don't believe in these types of things because I think that this encourages people to come back for the next step. This is like a business model that keeps the person endlessly returning. Whereas if they get stuck on Annie for a while, but Annie has all these things that are clearly laid out that they should get better at, then they're forced to get better at them to ascend with Annie. Whereas, yes, with Brand, Malzahar, Asol was the other one that you listed, etc., they can cheat an entire aspect of the game. And then there's another aspect.
Specific. I think
sure.
I don't think cheating is a fair word. What we're really doing is we're simplifying certain aspects of the game so that we can allocate our mental attack to other areas and actually feel what it's like to play the game of League of Legends. Because you're right in saying that theoretically someone could play Annie and they could learn all of these concepts about the game and they could be taught. In practice, for the average bronze or iron player, that's not really how it plays out. In practice, how it plays out is they're just overwhelmed. It's like, I'm just CSing under my tower. You're assuming that they're going to make that connection to, oh, I'm getting shoved in 24/7. I'm having to play dodgeball under my tower. what's going on here? And then, so for example, a concept that we think is relatively straightforward would be standing outside the wave, posturing a little bit aggressively.
De ce crede că poți vreodată să le faci ceva la ăștia cu aia?
Even though, you know, for the average higher level player, it's complete second nature and normal. It's actually not a very intuitive concept. If you're loading into a game of League of Legends as an average iron or bronze player,
what the
that's not intuitive
fuck?
whatsoever.
Văzut care ward, uite, eu n-aveam Brai, eu n-aveam cum.
Ability and spacing ability of the average iron and bronze player is not even remotely good enough.
Ăla are skin Immortalized legendary și nu a pus un ward cu aia. Dă-o dracului de treabă. Dă-o dracului de treabă, legit.
And you need to really do that. And that person does that. Their mental stack, they're in la la land immediately because they're focusing on something that is such a minutia, such a small detail that they can't even comprehend how that fits in with the bigger picture of laning holistically. It's like, hey man, yeah, you got to space this guy and auto attack him, but no, you've got to auto minions now. But no, then you got to go back to auto him, and then you got to weave in some of it. There's too much going on. So my premise, and what I've seen that gets results is, okay, let's simplify this a little bit. Let's not worry about wave first. We've got that inbuilt in our kit first. Let's actually feel what it's like to get a bit of shove, a bit of control, get some vision out. Maybe be a little bit aware of your jungler. Maybe move into that river grip, get to that dragonflight, get to those scuttles. Fight a little bit. Feel what it's like to deal damage. Reliably, AoE and be at actually attend fight and farm.
Așa a dat ulti, dar cum pula mea?
Because realistically, the way one of my most, I would say, important concepts that I recommend, and this is something that I've coined, I would say, is champion pool cycling. Someone should never play Malzahar for 150 games. Ideally, what I would recommend is if you're in high, play 60 games with Malzahar, 70 games with Malzahar, feel it out, play around with it, you know, have fun with it. You know, let's move on to something else. Let's move on to brand. Do that, do the same thing, 60, 70 games, and get a bit of reps in there. Move on to ASOL. Let's get maybe 60, 70 games in there. Over time, what we're simultaneously doing is feeling out multiple kits and feeling what works for you, what you find enjoyable. We're also getting you to view the game through different lenses, so we can shift our perspective and understand the game through different lenses, and understand how kits fundamentally interact. But what you're actually doing is you're actually, I would say, artificially creating progressive overload, using your term in reference to the gym. What we're doing is we're slowly and incrementally increasing the difficulty of the game. Now, in the gym, if we want to bench 100 kilos, you don't just rack on 100 kilos and say, so let's struggle onto the bench and try and lift 100 kilos, and eventually, if you keep struggling, you're going to get there. No, what do? Well, you start off with one plate, or 10 kilos on either side, and we do 10 reps, and then, you know, increase the rep range and add on some more weight, drop it down, and we do that, and we go up and up and up and up. That's my contention. Annie is the equivalent of whipping on 100 kilos, struggling onto the bar. It's like, hang in there, buddy. You'll get there, but you don't get there. And the reason I say that, I've literally got clients that I've worked with that have never got there. They told me, I've got messages in my Discord saying that when he was in gold or silver or something for like 5 years playing Annie, they don't go anywhere because they're overwhelmed. They can't figure it out.
Okay. So, I mean... No, it's fine, it's fine. So, again, when you say that you have experience getting results with your approach, obviously I had, back when I was doing public coaching, and I had thousands of hours myself, obviously Annie had results. Also, I'm a person that generally hates win rate data. However, in this case, Annie is one of the few champions in League at lower MMRs that consistently has really high win rates. So there's that. The other thing about like what you were saying for the players and incrementally like increasing like what they're going to do in X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada. I feel like again it's appealing to the 98%, and it circles back to I just care about the 2%. So like even in that regard with Annie, my assumption.
Sure. That's actually disingenuous. Annie in Iron has at the moment a 45% win rate.
What site are you using?
It's actually This is LoLalytics. I just went on LoLalytics on the recent patch. Iron, 45.76% win rate. Graded one of the lowest win rate champions.
Sure. So on UGG, she has different win rates than that. Silver, she has 51. In gold, she has 51.55. Then 51.59. What?
Oh, I'm talking iron.
Right.
We're talking about iron and bronze here, right? We're talking about beginners. In bronze, it's 50%,
Sure.
so it's middle of the pack. And
Sure.
in iron, it's 45. Gold is not bronze. Gold is completely different than bronze.
Well, I also think iron. I mean, I have my own stance on iron, but yeah, bronze. I'm mostly referencing bronze, silver, and gold. Yeah, on UGG, she has positive win rate for all of them.
You can't. Bronze, silver, and gold are like not even in the same ballpark.
Nice. Dă-i în ward, dă-i în ward. Dă-i în ward, bravo. Dă-i în ward. Dă-i în ward în mod. Stai de prost. Să nu vină cumva.
I don't know if I'd agree that they're that different. In terms of attainability, like within a small time frame, I think you can make a bronze player get gold very quick.
But if you look at a bronze player and you look at a gold player, in terms of their gameplay, we just showed a bronze, an actual bronze and an actual gold. It's scary.
Yeah, no, they're different.
Dar până am de ce n-au dat curios ulti, n-avea? Cred că nu avea ca și nu știu de ce n-au dat ulti acolo.
I don't think it's that difficult to go from bronze to gold in a really short time frame.
I think it's. I wouldn't say it's. Yeah, look, it's obviously doable. People do it. I wouldn't say it's. Say it's like easy.
Poate să fac asta? Are voie să fac asta?
Sure.
For some people it will be easy.
Sure.
Other people it won't be easy.
Yeah. No, I was just bringing up the anything, mostly because, again, those three brackets. But again, I am someone who does not particularly like win rate data because introduction of knowledge and everything else. Before it sounds like, to me, it's circling back to the 2% and 98% thing that I talked about earlier. Where I would rather have someone be on Annie, struggle longer. And even the gym analogy, I don't think is totally accurate because obviously Annie, you're working on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc., which would be like I don't know, stabilizing muscles. You'd have to build other types of muscles and do all this other type of stuff incrementally, just in different departments, right? You have to get good at spacing, tethering, auto attacking, etc., etc., etc. But then Annie demonstrably does have results, even if we don't agree on how they're achieved. Like, I think the meme exists for a reason, right? And obviously back in my day of, and again, anecdotal experience, doing all the coaching, I used to post all those screenshots and have like the OPGG reviews where someone would 50 games of Annie and they'd go up 600 LP or something.
I think the game has changed a lot, by the way. I will say that. Even over my 4 years of coaching, the game has changed a lot. I look at a bronze player now.
Yeah.
And you look at a bronze player 4 years ago. It's very, very different. So I'm not going to discredit any of the results that you got in your time before you were coaching. I don't doubt that. I'm just saying now, Annie is not an efficient way to learn the game. It's too complicated. There's too much going on to actually get success. It's not to say you can't.
Right.
But it's just not the most efficient way. If anything, probably one of the least efficient ways to actually learn the fundamentals of the game. If you want to learn the fundamentals of mid lane, it's not really where you would want to start. That's my contention.
Okay. I guess my only problem with that would just be is that it sounds like a business model to me. And what I mean by that is that it keeps the person endlessly returning because you put them on the wave clear champions, they learn to wave clear, they go to team fights, they don't actually understand what's happening in the team fight because different teammates, different champions every game, different situations. And they can, like, if we're talking about overload or we're talking about things that they can't possibly process on their own accord, that's not a single player. Well, I mean, it is a single player game. But there's a lot more, I think, convoluted stuff happening there. Whereas if they're on Annie, and their primary focus is on CS development, solo kill potential, and these types of metrics, and the type of things that you have to be good at on Annie in order to do those things, it gives a much more streamlined idea of why you're failing or what you're not doing good.
So yeah, no, you touched on some really beautiful points there, LS. First things first, let's talk about the business model for a second, right?
Sure.
That whole thing. You're absolutely you're spot on in the sense that one coaching session is not
Just
going to
report Nila now for what she just did.
In reality, in order to
Report LoL players for not playing like pro players.
Yeah, many coaching sessions. Hence why the way I don't know if you know the way my program is structured is that it's considerably cheaper than anyone else. It's actually $30 US and you get at minimum 2 sessions a month.
De parcă în pro play nu se întâmplă vă să te prindă aia câteodată. Doamne, cu dancer.
We have other coaches in the program.
I know, right?
I think we have at least 4 or 5 coaching sessions done every day of the week. And the reason I structured it this way is so people can get multiple sessions. So they don't have to spend $80 US every single second week to get a review because it's not financially viable.
Deci eu nu înțeleg ce nu-i convine la PC-ul meu.
It is, but in my mind, it has to be like that because what's the alternative? The alternative is that hey buddy, go play Annie. It will teach you all these things about the game, and don't worry, you get there in the end.
Are silence, by the way.
That actually doesn't work. It doesn't happen. And so what happens when it comes to personal training in the gym, right? The average person when it comes to the gym. Okay, well, why do they fail the gym? Well, they go once, they get demoralized, and they. What do we do? Personal training is a massive industry because one of the biggest reasons is not even because of the training plans. That's obviously one part of it. It's actually the motivation to go to the gym. And so you may say, well, doesn't that just make them?
Eu dat heal Soraku. E Soraku, că e băiat. Nu e Sorak.
They want you to fail, yeah.
But at the same time, it does take you because it works.
Nu, ce-am mai făcut ni la mă? E vina e că nu mi-a dat snipe la stream. E vina e că nu știa numele. Și cum îl plândi la loc, te cu ce bă? Ce mă, că săracu așa greșit.
I think that the way I teach is not really necessarily to make more money. There is no other way. I don't really
think ajung și eu degeaba mă duc amul de fapt. Nu să am niște fări.
Skyrocket from silver to platinum. Those people probably never needed coaching anyway. They were probably talented or had gaming experience and gaming backgrounds, maybe like Ludwig, whatever, whereby they're going to get there anyway. So they're not even the people that I'm even trying to help. I'm trying to help the people that need help. It's going to take, otherwise would have been in silver for 4 years. And so I'm going to help them go from silver to emerald within the space of a year, and whether it's like a year or a year and a half or whatever the hell it might be.
Well, okay. Well, no, it has nothing to do with like a debate. I don't think it should ever take that long to get there. That was just a random thought.
Bun.
Yeah, I think that's a long time.
Transpiră cu aia ca să mă omoare pe mine, nebunul.
Okay. Well, I don't think it's like a debate thing. I just think that's a long time. I would like. Yeah, I mean, I would have my own like independent thoughts on that. That there's more at play there.
And this is where I think LS.
Yeah.
Hai ce bă că încarcă ca să pe ăla săracu.
And I just want to actually I wanted to say this in a different way. Alice, you're very, very smart at the game, and you've done a lot for the league community. And there are concepts that you develop and.
Bă, dar e foarte nașpa. Și de exemplu un jucător bun de mid lane sau top lane și să pici support field și să nu știi aia ce să fac. Da, da.
But at the same time, like you've been mentioning, your specialty is serving the 2%.
Eu cred că ăștia ce jungle main se uită la autofill junglers, cred că îi doare creierul când se uită gen.
I think you're very detached from reality in terms of the average league player's experience. And I think you fail to empathize and understand what the average league player journey is like. And so in your mind, having worked with some of the best players in the world and you know, being an amazing League player yourself and StarCraft player and all this amazing achievements, you struggle to even begin to empathize what the average silver player or gold player or platinum player or whatever is like. And I think that that's kind of by design. That's like just the inbuilt in with the world. And I'm not saying that as a critique. I just think that's the reality of the situation because of the people that you surround yourself with and your experiences and what you're passionate about. So that's why I think we have differences.
Very funny. Very funny man.
A lot of time actually trying to empathize and understand. I was
What
the
the
same.
fuck?
Sure.
Come on, bro. Hai mă că ai ulti ahri în gât în mână. Dă dracului treabă cu aia, dacă nu-ți dai ulti la fazele astea, de-aia există campionul, man. Asta așa-i făcut, man.
To wrap my head around how could you possibly be in silver? I had to ask myself that. I literally had to ask myself.
Nu mai da și
how could
exhaust
someone
volând.
actually be in silver?
E de ce te
And that took me about a year and a half to even understand that. And it took me, the reason it took so long
The
specifically is how I
Teletubbies
developed
is
my
playing
own philosophy
without
about the
minimap.
Sure.
Ce dracu înseamnă asta?
The mental stack is what makes League hard. It's the League is not a hard game strategically.
Gândii la
League is a
pe
hard game
combatul tu.
execution based.
Da,
The
ok.
execution of League is what makes it hard. So
Uf,
that's
făcut
where I think our
anti-heal
difference
cu aia,
lies
dar...
on this. That's kind of what the vibe I'm getting
Okay.
as well. And
Okay.
what do you think that's fair? Do you think that's a
Nu era aici un oare...
assessment or no?
Well, I don't know how to tap. I think it's fair to say that I don't engage with Lormamar as much anymore, right? I guess my only like recent experiences was like last last winter or whatever, right? My one of my editors was silver on Korea and he got to diamond in like 2 months. And he was permanently
By the
silver.
way, that's
I know that's
like freak level. That's like
sure. But I mean, I was coaching
really
him on. Right, I understand it's like an outlier, but
Trebuie să meargă normal.
I used to have experiences like that all the time back when I was public coaching. That's why I hold the conviction that like, and again, I was coaching the editor, sure, and he was, you know, playing on Korea, and I remember posting about this publicly, like his meteoric like OPGG graph. But I used to have those experiences all the time. That's why I struggle with. I don't think that it should take this long to get from point A to point B, unless there's something else at play. So I'm not disagreeing with your experiences with people that you're coaching and whatever else. I'm just like, I'm struggling to grasp it just because it doesn't reflect my old experiences, and the few experiences that I've had recently didn't reflect that either. Like not just my editor, but a couple of other like miscellaneous friends that got into League in the last like year. So that's where I struggle there. I think that you are right that I do mostly just care about the 2% for the most part. But I would say that I also think it's unfair if people take short-form content of me and try to apply it to long-form beliefs. Because it's not as broken down, discussed, or whatever else. I think people should have the wherewithal to acknowledge that I'm like chronically online and many things are well documented and other types of stuff, to where it should at least cause a pause. You know, I mean that's my thought on that. Yeah.
And I don't want to. I want to make it clear, you know. Literally. I don't know if you saw the context of the
Lumea asta cu Eco a fost prea mondială. Mi-am dat Rical, am scăpat. Opa, am dat râră. Și-a venit înapoi și-a murit.
At the end of the day, we didn't just target that out. There was a context around that, right? And I think
O crezut că-i dăm cancel la Rical și de-aia o apăsat R ca să se ferească de skill-uri, că o zis că nu am mult încărcăm, dar el de fapt o scăpat. Dar nu, eu nu crezut că o scapă.
But look, I get that. I totally get that. I mean, I've been taken out of context so many times. I still am to this day. And you would
of course, it's content creation. Yep.
If you're in the public sphere and people watch your shit, people are going to take you out of context, and I empathize with that. And I apologize if you felt as though I attacked you.
The only thing I felt like maybe was an attack was when you accused me of rhetoric, essentially. That You made a claim that because of the conviction, I think, and again, I think this is almost verbatim, that I speak with such conviction that people can't disagree with me, or they just inherently believe it. But then my response to that would obviously be like, I've been doing the Worlds Co streams now for 5 weeks, for whatever, and many of my frequent pro player guests, LEC, especially Crown Shot, from me, two of the best players in their roles in their region, they're frequently commented on and like shorts, TikTok, YouTube, etc. because of the amount that they disagree. And so I think that that's not true. I think part of how I talk with maybe my tonality and stuff might be attributed to like autism, where I can just have the same tone almost no matter what I'm saying. I think that could maybe be a possibility. I think the conviction is because generally I do think what I'm saying is correct based on my current understanding, but that I'm also someone that has consistently displayed variable change. It's my fundamental philosophy. So when you also said my view of the game or my outlook of the game, I don't know what you interpret as my view of the game. In fact, that's always a question that I ask on like Twitter and stuff when people tell me what my view of the game is or my draft philosophy, etc. We only have fucking 8 minutes. I'm so sorry. But I was going to ask, like, what do you think my view of the game is? Because you cited it in the podcast, but then the claim of rhetoric and, the way that I speak with conviction. That was the only part that I thought was maybe attacking.
I agree. Actually, in hindsight, I don't think I would retract. I don't really like what I said there. That's actually one aspect of the whole podcast that I don't really, and I'm just going to say it outright. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not going to.
But it does its job because it got your viewers to come to my socials to demand a conversation. And
I don't
as
think
someone that
did. I think it was the 10 CS per minute thing. It was the 10 CS per minute thing that everyone wanted me to talk to about, from what I understand.
Sure. But I don't think they go out of their way if you don't make a spectacle of it with those types of phrases. And that's something that I always talked about. When I grew as much as I did in like 2020. Spectacle.
Yeah, no, totally.
Hyperbole. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
go ahead.
I don't. I think what I did there is I imposed a personal, thing, rather than that was like the one thing that I feel like I went too far. And I'm gonna just speak very transparently. I think the reason I felt like that in that moment, because when I do podcasts, I'm an idiot. We're two idiots, two Aussies sitting on bloody 2 armchairs. We're two idiots. I get pretty emotional, pretty into it, right? And when you're very passionate about something, it's very easy to say things that you get caught up in the moment, right? Yeah. And if I'm going to speak very transparently, I think the reason that came out in that moment is because, and I don't know if you remember this, you actually watched one of my videos on your Twitch stream ages ago. Maybe it was in 2020 or 2021.
Was it with Nemesis when we were doing reviews?
Yeah, it was with Nemesis.
Okay. Sure.
And I don't think I was portrayed fairly.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tried to reach out to actually talk about me and talk about my content, I never got any response.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out multiple times. I tried to anyway.
Where?
And I've had many people be critical of my content. And when I reach out to say, hey man, do you want to discuss it? There's just silence. And so,
can I ask you where you tried to reach out? Because I have open DMs everywhere.
Email, and I believe a Twitter DM, but I think it was email. So I think 2 emails over time.
Okay.
Over 2 emails. But yeah, I got radio silence, and I remember, by the way, and the reason I remember this specifically, and look, I don't blame you. Content creation is content creation, clicks, whatever. And I know you probably didn't mean it personally, but the reason I did actually remember that is because I was someone that was getting into content creation, and I was actually really trying to find my identity as a YouTube content creator and give value to people. Now, I wouldn't say my content was the best back in 2020, but I think that it was someone as large as what you had back in 2020 when I was growing up and becoming a YouTuber, completely discrediting things I said and not giving me a fair chance, wasn't really very, I don't think, kind, and was something that I just never really felt was, I don't think I was portrayed fairly. And I think that's something that I probably held on to. And I've always wanted to talk to you just about the game because I'm like, I love talking to people about the game and getting different philosophies, people coming from different backgrounds. And I think it's so easy just to discredit someone because they might have a different opinion. And that's why I was so excited to come on today and talk to you, because I do think we may differ on some things, but at the end of the day, we both love League of Legends.
Well, no, that's fine. It's fine. Go ahead, yeah.
I don't know about you, but I love League of Legends.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And that's what I'm passionate about. And so I just love talking to people who, and whether or not you still are, I mean, I'm assuming that you've gone through stages where you were very passionate about League. And yeah, so that's, I guess, my 2 cents of that. But so I will formally apologize for that particular aspect. I don't
No, it's totally fine.
Apologize for the 10 CS minute thing, but the other stuff, the rhetoric thing, 100%.
Yeah.
I think I was
that's totally fine. Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. Well, okay, but all right, so we only have 3 minutes though. What do you think my view of the game is though? Because you did cite it. And I every time people say this, I don't know what it even means.
I think that your view of the game is, I mean, I think, okay, well, it's very hard to describe in 3 minutes, but very quickly.
True.
Number one, I'm just going to riff a few things that I think you value. I think that you value playing the game in a very kind of like somewhat kind of like perfect way, where it's like you're obsessed with perfection. It's like and hyper efficiency, and everything is done for a particular reason, and it's I think there's like this element, I'm probably not articulating correctly, but I think there's like an element there of you viewing the game with this
așa joc orice pro player, nu? Like
very like hyper efficient, very like kind of they do this, I do this, they do this, I do this, like kind of like very getting very into the minutia, and I love that. I agree with that. I think that's very important about the game, and I don't disagree with that. I think that's one element. I think number two, there is an element of like you kind of want to go against the grain. You feel as though people kind of have like, I guess, whether you I'm not saying you've said this out loud, but I think you intuitively realize that there's a lot of like herd mentality, and people blindly follow the way the game is played from other players, and they don't actually think about creatively or critically about why the game is played a particular way.
Right.
So particular picks are underutilized for that very reason. And then I'll say number three, I do think you have a bit of a high elo skewed view of the game. Like I was mentioning before, that is somewhat detached from the average lower level player's experience. I would say they're my three kind of quick summary anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fine. The only thing I would maybe take gripe with is like the perfection comment, because I think that one does get thrown around, especially like it still gets thrown around. I see it in comments like even like 2 days ago, I think on like TikTok or something, where people assume that I think that pro players or high level players are robots. But my fundamental philosophy, if anyone actually listens to things that I say or advocate for in draft or plays and stuff, is always to lower variance and play with things that allow for more forgiveness. So like in draft, you're allowed to play a draft that you can fuck up early game, you can fall behind in gold, and you can do these things wrong and you can still be even or even ahead because you drafted correctly. If I actually believe that League of Legends players should all be perfect and that they should do X, Y, and Z, well, then Xerath is B1 every game. Karthus is suddenly just God mode broken. Kalista, Kog'Maw, the scripter champions, right, would be all at the top of all my lists. And I would not make claims like, oh, well, Nidalee is just completely useless, because obviously you'd hit every spear. So it's almost ironic when people make these claims about me, but they can't pause to realize that I seem to detest and dislike all of these high execution perfectionist champs. Because it fundamentally goes against my belief. I think the way that I operate in League is it's all variable change. And I think that is obviously because of my time as an RTS Pro player for 9 years. So yeah, I think everything for me in League is variable change. If you can show me that something I said was wrong is actually wrong, you can demonstrate it. That's it. Okay, great. If it comes down to like a feeling type thing, that's where things get muddy. Or it's like it can go back and forth into a convo. But yeah, I just care about, is this the most correct based on current knowledge and understanding? And if that is the case, then we should opt for this. And if someone comes along and is like, actually, I can show why this is wrong or that's obsolete, I'm all for it. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
It makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So anyway, I don't want to keep you too long.
Yeah, Worlds is starting, but yeah, this was good. No, this was good. This was a really good chat.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And
yeah. Do you want the VOD? I can have Tub cut it and send it to you, because I don't have VODs on Twitch because I'm in Korea.
That would be great. Yeah. I'd
okay.
Really love that. And one day I'd really love to have you on our podcast to talk about particular concepts about the game. So maybe one day we can have you on if you don't mind.
Yeah, that would be totally fine. That's no problem. Okay.
The warrior spirit is never broken. Yeah. A Demacian does not retreat.
Dă-i paci, coaie, în pula mea. Dă-i paci. Bă, hai că veneam. Coaie, eram acolo, what? Du-te în pula mea și te culcă, distrusule. Du-te și te culcă.
Here's a tip and a spear behind it.
Stand flacken and shell.
To triumph.
Bă, Jax, acolo trebuia să-l omor. Trebuia clar să moară de asta.
Substanțe interzise. The warrior spirit is never broken.
Voi știți că în junglă nu poți rămâne fără mana? Ce bun să ăștia pe top.
A Demacian does not retreat.
Da, bine. O da, flash, asta e. E realitatea, moșule. Da, și am unul acolo să mă omoare. După să-mi facă tot el ping. Băi, prea nașpa să fii jungler în jocul ăsta, să-mi bat pula. Ar trebui scos jungle-ul, zic eu. Ce e ca la Dota 2, 2, 1, 2. Bă, dar ce pula mea, mă? Nu-i 1-1-1. Ai un... Ok, coaie, am uitat. Era greu, bă, să pun o ward acolo, I guess. Asta e. prea greu, bă, costă prea mult ward-urile cu aia în jocul ăsta. No, bă, da. Dar nu pot să-mi cumpăr trinket. Oh, nice. Nice. Bă, ce mă enervează asta. Adică nu știu dacă... Nu am treabă, nu am treabă. E 1v1. Asta este. Atâta s-o putut, băi. Atâta s-o putut.
Here's a tip and a spear behind it. My king commands.
Copilăroasă și foarte aiurită, printre oameni ea e clar cea mai grăbită. Cu părul ei în vânt, haide uită-te la mine, aș vrea să-i spun ceva și sper să fie bine. Îi spun să mai stea măcar 2 minute, îi spun să mai stea, dar nu aude, era ca o prințesă într-o poveste Disney, dar ea nu se uită.
Dar ce pula mea, coaie, unde fug ăștia, coaie? De ce fugiți? Că eram aici, retardaților, unde fugiți? În spate la turn. În pula mea, iară moare ăla pe top, în pula mea, ce pe bă nu se întâmplă nimic. Că-mi bag pula.
De când am văzut-o peste tot e veselie, în jur e liniște, în capul meu e gălăgie. Vreau să mă opresc și un singur lucru să-i spun, că m-am nebunit, dar să nu creadă că se bun.
Wow, bravo.
Măcar 2 minute, îi spun să mai stea, dar nu aude, era ca o prințesă într-o poveste Disney, dar ea nu se uită în urma ei.
I prepare Papa Jacks from server and remove his account. Bine, am venit aici, m-am arătat numai ca să-i fac pe aia să le fie frică, ca să-i lase pe ăștia să ia turnul, ceea ce nu știu că o să se întâmple. E wishful thinking, of course. I am not a Riot employee. Bă, da, eu câștig aici 1v1. Coi cum l-a ratat. Dar am crezut că face ceva aia. What? Ce face ceva? 0 KP ADC, wow, mare treabă. E parcă nu se întâmplă aia și în Halo. Bă, da, oamenii ăștia au impresia că în Halo nu se întâmplă astea, dar se întâmplă. Hai, bai. O, băgam neaș cu ei trandafiri. Bă, da, îți rata quick de slab joc să-mi bag pula. What the fuck? Oh shit, facem throw, time to throw, Pogchamp. Time to throw, Pogchamp. Da. Mă rog, asta. Nu știu ce să fac, mă plictisesc. Repejugul.
Știu că-ți plac manelele, știu că-ți place când auzi ratatatata. Haide vino fata mea, nu mai stai ca fraiera, basul și cu toba, ratatatata.
They're walking through together. Coming in from the side, Kalista's down towards the bottom side. Targus has done the loop all the way around. Sheo just looking to take this red as soon as possible, but Kalista's doing some damage into his backstand. Hits the Winter's Bite onto Yike.
Bă, știi cum de critical are.
Look how low Sheo is though in the middle of it all. He lands the smite. But Vladdy is just waiting, and he'll happily take the kill. It's disaster! Oh my god!
His ambassador's gonna be farming with Corki. A little wiggle. No wiggle.
Heck yeah, coming around the corner. Not sure if the ward that they had, the ward they had in the jungle is already gone. Human point at the bottom side, well spotted, but a W flash goes in from Malrank, clean mechanics flash out from Human, but he's already slowed. It's a little bit awkward, he's getting walked down, that extra movement speed.
You can't reach him.
Oh, flash coming out.
W?
No! First blood! That's Mickey not the ideal title. Mickey has now been spotted. The flanker has become the flanked. Mickey in trouble, but the aftershock is still ticking. It's going to buy him a bit more space. Not enough to keep him standing, though. Upset goes to the team. That's absolutely not what you want. Upset!
Punching slash Q.
Okay.
And we also gotta go here.
Gotta go back to see if Large can get out of this one. The answer is no. This is the no counterplay to a weapon. Set. Objective taken. Quick flash out. Okay.
Really nice from him.
Looks good. Knockout. Now a little bit in trouble. Didn't see if he used the Pathmaker. He did. 6 seconds left on the cooldown. Things are going to be a little bit awkward here. There's a lot of CC now. Of course, use the ult, which will raise
dash. Are stun. Are. Whoa.
He's clean with it. He didn't even look back.
The top laners are battling it out, as you can see, and Giant X have just brute forced off it, especially since Lot is taking on Mirwin.
Are dash la orice skill.
He flashes and Mirwin has to burn his own. Lot again continuing to impress as Jordan is getting in the way. The flash
Old champion coming in.
You nasty devil!
Jojo, the players in this server are not normal, bro. Vladdy, try and get a kill first.
We never get to argue about builds.
Bro, Vladdy, try and get a kill first.
We never get to argue about builds. But to be fair, they've never told me they build Heartsteel, or we might have been fighting more.
Although it looks like... Oh, this is a barren start if I've ever seen one. Look at the plants. Oh my god, it's Professor Sprout's herbology.
Zira.
The plants are just going to take this for BDS or even
Plante contra zombie.
Yep, the incorporation of Jojo is going to help.
Has there been any philosophies from NA that he brought over to you guys?
Well, not really, because the philosophy he brought was coming.
I did not report Jax. Cut a step for me, please. Hello. I'm right. Of course. N-am băgat. Nope. I don't flex. M-a scos omul. Și văd și oameni, ui.
You're duller than a broken sandwich.
Bă, unde-i chat-ul meu? Unde-i chat-ul? Riot! Where the chat, where the chat, where the chat at? Na 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 na. Where the hood? Where the hood at? Where the hood? Where the hood at? Ce mi-a pus o eroare aici? Nu știu, nu înțeleg nimic. Nice.
Late, which in Spain is already common, so
maybe it's because North America, you know, but we had a schedule 10:30 a.m.
Yeah.
He came like at 12. So
they have swapped away, and I think this is a hard contested hill. He says the site's on mid.
Well, this could be a really good dive. Caps flash on. No, shattering strike misses.
Atakan is being started.
And G2 are not here.
They are not.
Who cares about Atakan, I guess? Vedius, what is... Did you show me?
Memento did tweet that they cancelled all their scrims and they spent a lot of time in practice tour playing around Atakan.
So what was that?
And they spent a lot of time in practice.
G2 are not here.
They are not.
Who cares about Atakan, I guess? Vedius, what did you show me?
Memento did tweet that they cancelled all their scrims
Când stă
and they
top
spent a lot
tare
of
să ne
time in
antrenăm să
practice
luăm
tour playing around
atacanul și
Atakan.
acum hai lasă atacanul la aici.
Next question.
G2 are still trying to use that poke.
Kazi's in such an awkward spot.
Fourth shot. Lebrov goes in anyway. The fourth shot to use that poke.
Kazi's in such an awkward spot.
Fourth shot. Lebrov goes in anyway. The fourth shot negated.
It's such an entertaining game. You're really seeing the...
Love me, amigos. Where the heck, bitch? Oh. Bă, ăștia-s Emerald. Why Emerald?
Cleanse.
The gold really doesn't matter.
Oh, they're walking into Hill. Into the Magnet Storm. Into the setup. And now the Nature's born. But he's dead. They don't get the damage onto Caps. Chayak tried to follow. Kazi tried to follow. But they were blocked. It looks so good. But it feels so bad. Now with Broken Blade. Taking him out. Vitality must be so damn mad.
And Yike, he's no stranger to these AV champion. Kalist playing Draven.
Rahel with a big kill here. As the grasping roots are now down, and so is the Draven. Flash from Kalist. Matches for his first cash into the game. That flash to redirect was clean. They run through a control ward. They know Rahel's here now finally as Loopy's caught out. He's going to be Fate's called back, but running into the middle of the fight, that's not it. Kalist runs around Dragon, and he's frontlining himself, but Genax can't take him down. Like, would you like extra food with
I mean,
that?
now that you just
Eu at ăștia parcă disable la Rumble că, bă, singurul gol din tot match-ul. Man, this ain't fair. Da. Deci, guys, cărați-mă, vă rog, eu sunt gold, voi sunteți emerald, platină, din alea, baftă la joc, guys, cărați-mă, vă rog. Blocked. Shielded. Ah, bine. Got my mana flow stack. Mana band. Whatever. Mana flow band. E ambele, actually. Bă, ce prostie din melodie. Dacă mi-a dat poțiunea de viață ca prost. Easy jungle diff, always has been. E ok, scalăm capa. Avem Olaf și Olaf contra LeBlanc pe top, bro. Like, normal că câștigăm, nu? Da, ăsta nu se mișcă, nu. Deci avem picioare să ne mișcăm. Dracu, Akali poate n-avea mana să vină la Rom. Poate n-avea mana. Nu înțeleg. Aoleu. Bă, dar ce până de trade-ul? Dar cum indică nu-i batem pe ăștia în veci. The big suck. Oh. Ooh, the big suck. Iară-i sărbătoare. În fiecare zi. Dacă e sărbătoare, înseamnă că în fiecare zi ar trebui să fiu liber în fiecare zi, să nu muncesc.
Așa începe totul ca într-un vis, salve de tunul, un foc aprins, mâini înghețate, amintindu-mi totul se distravă, așa cum ți-am promis și o să scăpăm, primește sentința, ultima oară, și nu lăsați fi, rămânem orice-ar fi, împreună, cât mi-ar costa și orice ar însemna împreună.
Trebuia să mă duc acolo. Da. Posibil. Posibil. Are 6 coaie bună aia. Nice. Are și ăsta beșini în capul omul. Da, mersi, Jin. Nice idea. Let's not do it again. Watch the too much pro play. Not at all. Uite, am lăsat un cannon. Bine, bine. Da, mersi de match. Incredibil gunoiul care încă ulti. Bă, dar asta nu s-o oferi, bă, de un edea lui Swain sau ceva în viața lui. Ia-l-ai. Hai de capul, mai bine dădea direct în el. Faker! Bine, Faker, guma gypsy ăla, guma iuși. Bali. Bă, dar n-am ulti, trebuie ulti. The big suck. Dă-vă dracu din Ubali. Ați făcut chase. What a noob. Oh, bine. Stai că aia n-are damage. Mai bine nu, mai bine nu. Mai bine dăm un install cu și trebuie și ăsta. Iar, faceți iară remake la Swain, vă rog. Al 10-lea o să fie cu noroc. Faceți iară remake, că iară e pușcat. Campionul ăsta în morții lui de campion. Nice, Sham, Riot, Send, remake, still worst than ever. În pula mea. De retardat de campion. Cum dracului aia are 6-1-3 și nu poate să dea un sfert de viață la ăsta. Ești prost deodată, un sfert. Un sfert. Doamne ferește. Adică l-a sofidat cu asta ca să ce? Da, bem. Deci incredibil, noi batem pe aia, dar e tot ești mai tare ca noi. Cum vine asta? Te dracu de scârbă împuțită. Te dracu de scârbă împuțită. Ia, unde e asta? Aoleu. Bă, fugi mă la Diana, nu fugi de... Ce? Oh, whatever. Coaie, în loc să cerce măcar să fugă către... Na, coaie. Asta e gata. Ăla e campioni mai buni, asta e treaba. Nu pot să dau fier, uite, nu pot să fac, nu am range. Nu am range cu aia să respir. Ah, i-am dat, hai, fine. mai bine dădeau pe Lulu. Trebuia să iau să fac Oblivion Orb, în loc să țin bani pentru boots. Dar așa, fugi de Jhin, fugi de Jhin! Coaie, de ce nu fugi către Jhin? Eu nu înțeleg ce viață e asta, man. Bă, deci de ce fuge de a lui? Acum, ce caută la acolo? Nu bine. Nu înțeleg. Mai înainte nu era acolo. Mai înainte nu a venit să o batem pe Lulu sau ce, oricum, bine, era bait Lulu acolo, dar e whatever, e gata meciul ăsta oricum. Easy bait, easy carry. What the fuck? Da, bă, da, fugi! Către mine, coaie, fugi în pula mătii! Doamne, bă, ăla... Bă, dar nu le place, mă, să... Să fugă către aliați. E fucking weird, man. Ia că dacă dau click aici deschid shop-ul. Cum că nici măcar nu e aproape de ăla, what the hell? Au făcut așa mare hitbox-ul ăla din cauza că unii oameni chiar așa deschid shop-ul, cred că. Cum îl închid? Dau pe X? Wow. I guess. Dacă joci cu mână numai, n-ai mouse cu multe butoane. Da, whatever. Nu ai cum, că nu vor să joace anti-heal. Pentru Sway nu văd Serpent Fang, nu văd nimic. No, are și la cooldown, bagă-te. Așa e. Așa e. Încarcă la Kali, bravo. Aoleu. Aoleu. Hai, coi că m-a focusat pe mine nebunii. Ia ce prost e că moare să dea în mine. Bravo tu. Nu nici că-și dă reset, așa nu acolo. Ataca nu, pardon, domnule. Așa nu, bă. Așa eu cred că. Ce să bagă nebuna de parcă ea ar fi aia care trebuie să apere acolo? Neața, seniorule, ce faci? Bă, ăștia nu cam forțează cu Drake-ul. Cum mai vin de la muncă? Uuuu. Ce nebunie! Da. Nu, ce să le fac la ăștia? Joci la Silver? Bă, nu. Dar eram Silver mai înainte și na. Adică la începutul streamului eram Silver. Gen, no, aia e pierdută deja. Da, unele sunt făcute. Sănătate mentală nu e. Doar pare aici, e o mască. Nu mă vezi pe mine cel real de fapt. Dar îs gen gold acum. Bă, aici. Oleu, dar de ce se bate? Cu cine se bate? Ce e acolo? Pentru ce se bate? Boh, spatul. Dă-i mă, baronule, dă-i în ei. Gen, am MMR mai mare decât rankul meu. Și acum în match-ul ăsta eu sunt gold, dar singurul gold din match, că în rest sunt platină și din astea. Ăștia alți. Nu-s platină și emerald. Și na. Aștept să mă care mei. The big suck. Welcome to the big suck. I-am subt. Mă rog, m-au subt. Ne-am subt. Dacă aici vine LeBlanc undeva, cred că. Q. Aveam și flash să dau acolo, just in case. Bă, mă enervează spell-ul ăla, e foarte unskilled și random. Mă enervează că sunt prea random chestiile astea. La Baron. Mr. Baruni. Fiddle support, da. Nici Fiddle Steve support. Bă, asta jucam și în Diamond și de alea nu-i problemă. Asta e unul din cei mai tari suporți acum, de care nu-i jucat. Și Zac support merge cât de cât. Eu fac viața pe ăștia. The big suck. Bun. Ce bolunzănie. Bă, dar cum dracu, deci odată dodge cu ulti la Q-ul meu, Kane, au avut noroc. Bă, dar mai bine o bat așa pe Lulu. Că pe Lulu dacă o bați, generala nu prea are damage cu Kane să te bată și pe Lulu dacă o bați nu-i mai dă scuturi și din aia și ăla are și Spirit Vise și căcatul și apoi, da, kill Lulu. Dă-o dracu, de Yordle. Suntem rasiști aici. Yordle is... N-ar avea pită de Yordle. Trebuie are și pe rug. Ia la oh, schemă, opa! Nu știu să-mi iau buți, mă, dar nu mai are rost să-mi iau... Stai, da, n-avem fit, dă dracu, nu mai iau buți. Mai bine așa. Da, păi așa zice pe OPGG ea. Asta e meciul de fapt, wow, am dat refresh din reflex. Intrus Kane. Apoi la ora asta, îți dai seama. Bă, dar să vezi ce pierdeam, deci incredibil ce pierdeam. Până acum, numai că na. Ia la aici, că FF. Nice. Nu am omorât-o pe urâta aia. I-am sturat toți de ea. Asta pe mine vrea să mă omori. Nu. Prin normal, țât capul, mă. Report Swain, no. Ce-au greșit Swain? Ai boostat, ok? Zice LeBlanc top să reportăm pe Swain că... Oh, bă, ce mă, dă în ăla. Dă să, fii atent aici la sfârșit. Așa. Dar bă, nu mai... Hai mă, zic ăștia. Nu, n-am apucat, că odată ăștia. Ah! Mamă, dar erai în Prime când făceai stream mai de mulți când aveai părul mare. Na, bine. Au, asta e. Bine, șabu. Sau Prime la ce, că și așa, nu mă jucam LoL, nu știu ce, mă jucam alte chestii și atunci era întă variety. Am vrut să dau EU și să dau Zonia, bă, și se vede EU așa foarte mare, gen, dar odată ăștia nu știu cum e din aia, nici n-am văzut când au scăzut viața la Mangaul 3. Dacă mă mai joc acum, nu mai am chef. Nu mai am chef că m-am descărcat. Pe cât mi-a dat ea? Mi-a dat... nu știu, că am și trecut 30 și ceva LP, ceva gen. Da, e 30 și ceva. Oricum, să pot să mă uit pe... Da, am mai primit și eu 38 pe ceață. Bă, mi-a început de la început. What? Nu știu că face Twitch asta. Tu nu-ți pornești, bă, stream-ul? Că eu mi-l închip, îți dau ție raid sau ceva. Poate am pe aici ceva adormit. Bă, dar unde zice, mă, cât le pe-mi dă? Na, e Bolunder, dracu. Cred că am la ceva numesc. Ok. Pe UGG apare, ok. Mi-a dat ad 1 că să jucăm duo și de alea cu care am picat în match și o pierdut contra mine. Aoleu. Hai să iau numele cănii. Asta e un cont, l-am recuperat contul, e din 2010-2013, undeva pe acolo. Nu știu exact din ce an, dar... Da, ești deștept, bravo. Hashtag EUNE înseamnă NA1 pentru el. Bă, da, deștept-i, mă, ăsta, mă, battle, cam... Păi, am... cum zice... Bine, nu că recupera, că nu trebuie să-i dau recover cu ticket și din alea. Dar, pur și simplu, era un cont de level 6. Ce m-a jucat mai de mult. Când eram bitang, când a apărut LoL-ul. Ok, am primit 38 pe da. Aici meciurile astea. Deci cam tot așa mi-a, cred că așa acum dacă am câștigat. Poate 36. Da, bă, am transpirat meciul ăsta. Ai, mă, deci sunt meciuri, tot felul de meciuri pe aici. Da, nu mai jucam, cred că. Parcă erai Diamond, păi da. Bine, Diamond. Da, să fac Master, da. Trebuie numai să mă joc. Dacă mă băgam pe alt cont, eram Diamond până am că mă dădea platină, emerald, ceva genul. Am jucat pe main, nu. Nu, n-am prea mai jucat. N-am prea mai jucat jocul. Numai că am făcut level la contul ăsta și acum să mă joc ranked pe el. Dacă mă joc pe contul ăsta ranked și fac platină sau ceva genul, chiar nu am niciun cont în LoL. Deci cât tot e platină sau mai sus. Na, nu știu. Want to rock? Implant pentru refuz. Dora Gaetanovic. Ia cu cine m-a băgat pe aici. Asta, deci, el joacă LeBlanc top și zice report ăla, nu? Am înțeleg, man, dar... Deci ei n-avea un tank în echipă numai pe Kane, care noroc o mers Red. Nu mă bag la somn, dar trebuie să mânc și mă bag să mă la anime, la... așa cum zice. Asta e genial. E genial. Și nu-i popular, aia e faza. E nou, încă e airing, dar e genial. E cu... cum zice... E cu ăștia mai de mult până secolul XV Polonia, ci că cum biserica îi omora pe ăștia, că zicea că sunt eretici, care ziceau că pământul de fapt se învârte în jurul soarelui și nu se învârte soarele în jurul pământului, nu. Aia, legit, cam aia îi. Cam aia îi. E insane, dacă te uiți la primele 3 episoade, îți pică gura. Îți pică tot, te dezmembrezi. Primele 3 episoade. Că după aia îți dai seama ce ambiție are, mai ales. Bine, îi deja tare și din primele 2 oricum. Dar la al 3-lea, ești din what the fuck, e din ăla, e din ăla, man. E mișto, mi-amintește de... Nu știu să știu, da, de ăsta, de fumețul nouă Nataie. Și asta e ceva de genul. Din astea mai trece de la un caracter la altul, cum ar fi. Ceea că vorbește knowledge și cu Dr. Stone seamănă că e știință, cum ar fi astronomie, nu? De asta că astronomia folosește matematica, fizica și chimia ca să își dea seama ce caracteristici au planetele și astea. Și tot felul de chestii. Da, sunt multe mișto. Și sunt multe mișto și scurte, adică dacă îți place fotbalul, poți să la ăsta lejer, e foarte comestibil, să zic așa. Ăsta, știi cum e, dacă fotbalul era un battle royale între atacanți, da, asta e anime-ul ăsta. Și de-aia are și nota așa bună, 8 din 10. Conceptul e prea bun și l-o și executa fain. Este felul, nu? Depinde ce-ți place. Eu aia pe ăsta mă uit pe Hai Anime, site-ul ăsta, haianime.ro. Și acolo găsești, bine, cu subtitrarea în engleză, dacă, da. Dacă e în română e mai complicat, nu știu să zic exact, dar... Da. Nu, hai că vă las. Mi-aduc să mânc, mă bag la anime. Bă, eu ce fac după aia? Ce știu, poate dorm o țâră. Nu știu exact. M-am trezit la 2 noaptea. Ceau, les.